Hello, this is Steven Hour. Yes, we are back with yet another Batman 66 episode review, and today the dynamic trio will be going up against Dr. Cassandra, and she'll be assisted by her husband, Kabala. So without any further ado, let's head straight into the review. We begin our episode at the Gotham City Bank, where Dr. Cassandra and her husband are there to pull off a bank job. They swallow pills, which turns out makes them invisible. They then end up robbing the bank. Word of this reaches Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, in which they realize that this is a case for Batman. Just as they're about to answer the phone, Dr. Cassandra and Kabala, no doubt still invisible, go make their way into the office and end up subduing Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara and take control of the Bat phone, calling up Batman and Robin. Bruce Wayne and Dick go to answer the phone, only to be shocked of someone else answering the phone and basically challenging them. Realizing there's a new criminal in town, they head down the back poles. We do the usual opening credits, and then Batman and Robin at Police Commissioner Gordon's office, along with Barbara. They then explained that they did not see them enter and leave because they were invisible, and also they've been responsible for several bank jobs. Realizing of Dr. Cassandra, a possible clue could be found in the library, and possibly to trace her heritage of the alchemist science. Just as that's happening, Dr. Cassandra and her husband Cabala make their way back to their hideout, where it turns out Dr. Cassandra explains the pills. It's a special pill that helps them blend into the background, but there are a few design flaws, such as when you get hit on the head, you easily hit on the head, not hit on the head really, but when you get knocked unconscious, you materialize. Also, Dr. Cassandra is also revealed to be from a long line of mothers who essentially have failed on solvents that have resulted in her death, and she plans to succeed where they failed. She reveals her big caper is to get rid of Batman and Robin once and for all, but also to create an invisible criminal empire, which will result in them breaking out some of Gotham City's arch criminals, with her as the leader of the gang. We then head to the Gotham City Library, where Batman has done some research and found out that Dr. Cassandra is no doctor, but simply a charlatan, and figured out her heritage. He then gets a call on his portable bat phone, how Dr. Cassandra just challenged them to stop a robbery at a jewelry store, with Barbara listening into the conversation because she just happened to be, because she was there. Dr. Cassandra and husband Kabal make their way into the jewelry store and about to steal the mobile diamond. Just as that happens, Batman and Robin turn up along with Batgirl. And what ends up happening is Dr. Cassandra ends up using a new device, an Albedo ray gun, and fires at the dynamic trio, which results in turning them into cardboard cutouts. They end up taking the diamond. The cardboard cutouts make their way back to Commissioner Gordon's office, which Chief O'Hara and Gordon are shocked to see. Realizing there's no medical way to revert them, they then their last option is to call up the mysterious voice on the bat phone, explaining, hoping that he might be able to sort out the situation. When Alfred hears, he is shocked, but he gives them instructions on how to retrieve them, on how he can retrieve them without blowing his identity. Whilst that's happening, Alfred gets the 3 cardboard cutouts, whilst at the same time, Dr. Cassandra and her husband and Dr. Cassandra and Kabala end up a prison break, releasing the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, Catwoman, Egghead, and King Tut. I always had a problem. Why King Tut? He's technically reformed. What, did he get his head re-hit again and he's back to King Tut? I don't know. It's just something that bothered me a lot. Anyway, Alfred takes them back to the Batcave and puts them in this 3-dimensional device to bring them back to their original form. He then also flips a switch, resulting in the Batmobile making its way back to the Batcave, and he quickly makes his leave so Batgirl won't recognize him. The dynamic trio are returned to normal, and for the first time ever, Batgirl is in the Batcave. They end up phoning Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, to hopefully get some more information, and when they find out the criminals have been released, they then use a device on the Batcomputer to track them to Dr. Cassandra's hideout. The Batmobile has returned. They end up popping in the Batmobile and race there, but not before Batman knocks her out with some knockout gas, which of course she consents to. Dr. Cassandra and Kabala essentially start dividing up the city to the criminals and offers them the invisible, well, pills, and essentially asks a 50% cut of everything they steal. And of course explains the terms and also of using the pill. The dynamic trio make their way in, and shocked to see them, all the criminals take the pills and they're invisible. And this is a funny fight. The dynamic trio are getting their asses kicked because they can't see who they're fighting. Realizing in order to make the playing field fair for everyone involved, Batman destroys the light, making it pitch black, and the fight still goes on. Now, it's clear that it's just lights out and we are imagining this fight that we are not seeing, but I love it for its goofiness. And as a result, the show can get away with this. And we all know that by this season 3 already had a very short and not that expensive budget, so I can appreciate it for what it was. Anyway, after the fight, everyone's knocked out. Dr. Cassandra has used up all her last camouflage pills, and her Alvita ray gun has been disabled. We end the episode with Dr. Cassandra, Cabala, and all the arch criminals arrested and sent to Gotham Prison. We then see Chief O'Hara and Gordon go to a hair salon, where Chief O'Hara is worried about Cassandra and Kabala smuggling camouflage pills, but Commissioner Gordon assures him it won't happen because A, the prison matron isn't called Miss Frisk, and they are put in special cells where their pills won't be able to help them to blend into the background. They then go to Minerva, who owns the spa, and she takes them to their essentially relaxing appointment. But it is said she'll be next week's villain, as she has a villainous scheme in mind. Okay, my favourite bit is, first off, we get to see Batgirl in the Batcave, all fun and good. Chief O'Hara and Gordon pretending to be essentially knocked out by invisible people is really fun, and Alfred really helping at the end of the day. This episode should also be known as also being sadly Warden Crichton's final appearance. He's made small appearances throughout the show, and it's really sad that this is really his last big appearance before he finally, last appearance throughout the season. But of course, let's talk about the villain. Dr. Cassandra, portrayed by Ida Lupin. Oh, am I pronouncing that right? I don't think so. Anyway, basically, her and Kabala are essentially criminal, hippies. And the character are meant to be hippie and cool and current, but I think it's making fun of how these old people are trying to be hippie, but they're saying lingos from their time when they were teens. That's the impression I got. I like how she's a little bit ambitious, and her character backstory is a little bit, she wants to succeed where her mother's failed. But she's also rather bland as well. And this is nothing against the actress, but I just never found Dr. Cassandra to be that all engaging or interesting. She has a few bits that make her interesting, and she's shown to be a very smart criminal genius, but I never found her that interesting as a character to continue watching. Cabala is the same thing, portrayed by Howard Duff, who you may know or recognize as appearing in a window cameo later in Season 2. Also, interesting fact, the Cabala, the actor who plays Cabala and the actor that plays Cassandra were married at the time, although I think they might have been separated around maybe this time and didn't properly get divorced till the 80s. There's a whole controversy as to why. I don't want to get into it. It's too, and hell, I don't really understand it. But anyway, Cabala's character, I don't mind him. He's kind of fun. He's clearly not in it for the criminal coup, and he's always saying, "Oh, doctor, baby," and basically is sort of like the comic relief. And though I will admit, he contributes nothing to the plot. I also like it interesting. First off, it is usually the female, second best, the second villain build are usually the female, and the male is usually the main build. It's reversed. So I kind of find it interesting for that fact. Other than that, it's okay. Also, I like we get some of our favorite villains back. Now, I've always said there were final appearances. Yes, but there were technically final appearances for their actors. These guys are just stands-in. We have the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, the main three, along with the Catwoman, though this time played by a white actor, not a black one. Also, they brought Egghead, who was always fun, and King Tut. I still say, why was King Tut brought back when clearly he should have had his head fixed. I don't know, that just never made any sense to me, but it's something I need to, at least, it's worth noting. It's interesting we're getting a little cameos, and I like how we don't probably get to proper see their faces, as they are clearly stand-ins, and that's what I like about it a bit. Also here we get Minerva, who will be next week's villain. Find out what I think about her in that episode. The entrancing Dr. Cassandra is, I think like with Nora Clavicle's episode, probably somewhat the weakest of Season 3. Though, I will admit, this has its moments that make it far more better than the Nora Clavicle episode. It's still just barely watchable, with some interesting moments, but not that much. Sadly, this episode, for me, will always rank in the series' 3 worst episodes for me, with this at number 2. There we have it. That was the entrancing Dr. Cassandra, the last time we'll be seeing Cassandra and Husband Cabala. We're nearly at the end of the series. Join us next time where we review the final episode and the dynamic trio will be going up against Minerva. So if you want to tune in for the series' final episode, tune in to the next Steven hour, the next Steven time. Ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.